Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to Monster Energy Supercross 3, the official video game, where today we're going to be playing my custom replica of the 2020 Oakland Supercross in-game. I apologize that this video is a little bit late this week. I'd actually already recorded it, rendered it, all this business, and then realized that I actually had some audio issues. And it was pretty much already ready and uploaded on YouTube and ready to go before I'd even realized it. So a little late this week with it. Normally I'm a little bit faster on the draw, but we're going to get it out tonight so that you guys can listen to it if you wish to. But yeah, this is essentially the Oakland race review video as well. If you're new to these, if you've just subscribed to the channel, if you're just watching Monster Energy Supercross 3 content for the first time, what I do is I build the track that was raced the weekend before each week, and then play it for 20-25 minutes and kind of talk about the race as well. So it's like you get to see what the track looks like in the game a little bit from the track editor side, and then you get to kind of hear my thoughts and opinions from the weekend as well. Whether you disagree or agree with what I have to say, I don't really care. I'm just happy that you're here watching the video, and always open to kind of starting a discussion in the comment section below. But let's jump into the weekend, shall we? Let's talk about the 450 class first, which was won by the number 3 machine of Eli Tomac. His 29th career victory moves to 3 points down in the championship on Ken Roczen, and it was a very, very good ride. I had a pseudo argument with one of my friends who basically said it was a statement ride by Tomac, which I don't agree with, personally speaking. I think that statement rides come when you're either way down the field and, you know, come up and pass everybody, or you're so far out in front that nobody even has a chance. I mean, Kenny, at the very least, kept Eli honest pretty much the entire race, whether or not Tomac was leading. And honestly, I think in the second half of the race, there was a rider that was better than Eli, too. So I wouldn't call it a statement ride, but it was a very, very good ride. It was a very, let's just call it like assertive ride, to kind of establish, yeah, he is definitely in this championship, full play, like no messing around this time. In the past, he's kind of flubbed a little bit in the early rounds, and it's always put him at a disadvantage, and he's barely ever led the points in his career, in Supercross at least. Now he's in a really good position to probably take the points lead here before long if he continues the trend that he's been on. Roczen's been good at like responding to these instances of Tomac finding his groove and winning, or you know, at least stopping the momentum so far, but pretty tough to stop the momentum flow that Tomac has going right now. He was electrifying this weekend in Oakland, and I think that although he was as good as he was, I think what it shows us is that this field almost has a little bit more competitiveness to them this year than in past, and I don't think that necessarily means that Tomac is going to struggle like he has in the past. I think maybe it's just a mental thing where he's going to figure it out this year. But I feel like, at least for Roczen's case, he's definitely proved so far this year that his pace is equal to, for the most part, Tomac's, in some cases better. And I think it's going to depend a lot on, you know, the track, how it shapes up. I think some tracks Kenny will be better, some tracks Eli will be better, and some tracks someone else entirely will be better. And I think as we get into the second half of the season, that's going to become more apparent of like who are going to be the front runners. I think we're starting to pretty clearly see a trend that Cooper Webb, when he gets good starts, will be up there to play. Ken Roczen and Eli Tomac seem to be ready to play at any point in time. And then guys like Adam Cianciarulo and Jason Anderson can be in the mix and probably could or will win races this year at some point. But so far it hasn't really fallen their way, and that's why they're so far kind of behind in the championship already. Webb is like 18 points down. I think Anderson's about 15 down. Barsha probably about, I think, 13 or 12 down. And then Eli and Kenny are basically on top of each other. Only 3 points down is Eli at the front. So we have a twofer out front, but I think Webb is going to start getting into this mix because Webb is better when the series goes east, in my opinion. The whoops break down. He's good at jumping whoops. His bike is set up pretty well for rutted corners, which the East Coast will do. You could tell as the Oakland track got worse, Cooper Webb got better, and I think that that's what he is kind of banking on, as the track's getting worse as the series goes on. With they may remain as technical as they've been, but they'll get a lot more chewed up in this softer East Coast dirt instead of, hard packed California stuff. So I think he's hoping for that. But either way, he looked great in the second half of the main event. I think that's kind of the Webb a lot of us were waiting to see, I guess, where he didn't really have it at the beginning and kind of was losing touch with those guys, as was Adam Cianciarulo, who was up there. And then as the main progressed, as the track broke down, Webb found his groove, and he was going faster than anybody on the track late in the race and basically catching the lead group. And on the last lap alone, he caught Roczen by 4 seconds. So, I mean, I know that people were very upset that Kenny kind of got hurt in that situation, and damn you, Webb, for going for an easy kind of block pass in the final turn. But Webb caught him from pretty far back, so like it was almost as if Roczen kind of deserves the blame for not holding on as much as he could have there on the last lap, and valuable points lost. And Kenny even said that on the podium. He was like just bummed that he lost the points. He wasn't bummed about the injury or anything like that, which he didn't really know the extent of it. And still to this day, we don't know much about it. He hasn't openly said anything himself. Honda PR hasn't said anything. So we're still just kind of waiting on news on Kenny. But he was very open and honest that he didn't think that Webb's pass is that bad, and that, they're going for a championship, and that's kind of the passes you have to make out there. And that's how I feel about it too. Like, normally I let the riders kind of do the speaking for it, and I think Kenny hit the nail on the head. Like, I was blown away by how many people were so upset with Webb's pass attempt, because like, not only was it was the last corner for points and championship scenarios and all this other stuff, but it wasn't even that bad of a pass. Like, they made contact. Yeah, Webb kind of moved him out of the rut, but I've seen 1,000 times worse passes happen in the last chance qualifiers, and fans are electrified over it. They love it, but Webb does it for very valuable points, and probably somewhere in the area of like 20 grand more in bonuses in the final turn of a race, and he's vilified for it. Again, I just don't get it. Like, when Ferrandis did the whole Craig takeout a few weeks ago, I even said the same thing, where I was like, I can't believe that Ferrandis was so vilified for his pass attempt on Lawrence that he tried to make before the rhythm section, before this little Supercross trip over there. Couldn't believe that he was so vilified for it, but I got it a little bit more there because the fans were still upset about Craig, so they thought that Ferrandis was just overall a dirty rider. But Webb did nothing all night long. Like, it wasn't like he, on his way to the front, he absolutely ruined Adam Cianciarulo's day. No, it was a straight up good clean pass, and moved around him and set sail after the lead group. And I was just, I don't know. It's more and more every year I feel like I'm looking at Supercross fans getting softer. And I know that that's a blanket statement that I don't want to include everybody in, because I think there's a lot of people that are just like, bro, that's racing, like, get over it. But I don't know, like, 99% of the time, a block pass in that corner of that nature results in nobody getting hurt, and everybody's saying, wow, Webb, look at him, he went for it there late and got it done. But just because Kenny got his foot pinched kind of weird there and may have gotten a little bit of an injury from it, I think that, like, people were just like, what the heck, Cooper, freaking idiot, dumb, why go for a pass there? It's like, everybody's going to go for that pass there. Every single person and their mother will try to take that pass in the final corner, and Webb is no exception. And good on him. Like, you got to take those opportunities when they're available. When there's a chance to get more points towards the championship, go for it. Like, I don't know, blown away by how many people were upset by that move. Anyway, couple more things in the 450 class. First of all, Blake Baggett can't buy a freaking break, I feel like. Except for that his son is named Breaker, so he buys a breaker there. Laughs. But no, seriously, like, he was great in the heat race, although I personally believe he showed his hand a little bit too early by doing the triple before the finish in the heat, because I think I remember seeing him do it once or twice in practice, so he knew how to do it. He knew what the lines were like. If he had saved it for the main event and gotten a good start up front, none of those guys would have been able to do it yet, because they wouldn't have seen Baggett pretty easily doing it in his heat, and they would have still just been doing 2-3-1, and Baggett would have been coming from behind where they don't know what he's doing behind them, and doing the triple and gaining several tenths of a second a lap, I would say, and it would have been huge. But he kind of showed his hand early and then got a bad start in the main event, and then that didn't help, and blah, 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 blah. Just poor Blake, man. Just right when you think he's got it all kind of figured out, almost like fast in qualifying, up front in his heat race, yada, 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 and then gets a bad start and just has nothing to show for it, and it's just got to be uber frustrating to be in that position. But it's almost like his mantra, unfortunately, because he always has had the issue of getting bad starts and having to charge forward. That's where he got the nickname El Chupacabra, because it was like second half of the motos, he just snuck up on you and got you. And yeah, bummer for Baggett. I'd like to give a shout out to Dean Wilson and Justin Hill, who had their best finishes of the season, 7th and 8th respectively. I feel like Wilson is starting to work into this zone that is going to be a little bit dangerous. He, I think, has a lot of speed and potential to show, and has gotten 0 starts to show it. He came from around 12th or 13th this week to get 7th, and like that's huge for someone who basically 3 months ago at this point was getting carted off at Monster Cup, like 3.5 months ago now, and you know, dislocated hip and all that. It could have been so much worse than it is right now for Wilson to be where he is in the points and finishing where he is and having the rides that he is. I'm very excited to see what Wilson can do moving forward. And then for Justin Hill, like unmatched level of consistency that we've never seen from him before. Like last year, it was like, well, Justin Hill's going to be fastest qualifier this week, and then he'll finish whatever in the main event, but nobody will remember that because he was fastest qualifier this week. But now Hill is like making a name for himself. He's gone, I think, 11, 11, 10, 10, 8 or something like that at this point, and was better this week, won his heat, got a better start in the main, was utilizing that. Like all these things contributing to, I feel like, a more consistent and thus better Justin Hill. So that's a positive moving forward to kind of keep an eye on, because he'll just, at some point, we'll just be like, oh yeah, Justin Hill's atop the board in qualifying, no problem. That's good to me. Like that's just the usual, and we won't be surprised. I don't think I can talk much more about in the 450s. Maybe hint on Adam Cianciarulo again being fastest qualifier, finishing 4th, but that was a good 4th, I would say, coming off of his crash at Glendale, where he said he got like a bruised tailbone from the slam that he had in the whoops, which is fortunate because it could have been worse. It could have been broken tailbone, or you know, even some back issues or something like that with how hard he hit. But fortunate to not get overly injured. Wasn't able to ride much during the week, but then kind of turned it into a good start / a solid ride in the main event at Oakland. So good for him. And then Anderson had to come from the back-ish again, kind of like mid-package start, and charge up to 5th. Gone 5-3, 5-3, 5 in 5 rounds. So just like with Cianciarulo and Webb and all these guys, they're in the championship hunt, technically speaking, but they're losing points every single week to Roxon and Tomac, who have now gone 1-2, 1-1, you know, basically flip-flop the front positions, although Roxon got 3rd this week. So I don't know. Moving forward, I'm sticking with Eli as my title pick. I don't think he's going to win San Diego, though. I think it's going to be somebody else. I think someone's going to get a good start and show their hand strong here. I think it's going to be Kenny this weekend, personally. I think that they're still doing this like yo-yo of wins thing going on. But I would like to see Anderson or Cianciarulo win, because I want to see more of these guys get confidence going and get themselves into this championship chase. You know, we have Barsha, we have Tomac, we have Roxon picking up wins now. Let's have one of those guys pick up a win, and then you know what? I'm sure by the time we're going east, Cooper Webb is going to find a way to pick up a win here and there, and it's just going to get better and better. So hopefully one of those guys does it this weekend, in my opinion. That'd be awesome. Moving on to 250s, though. Talking about Dylan Ferrandis picking up his 2nd win of the season, right? Yeah, 2nd win of the season, because he won A2. And now moves to pretty close down in the champion. Or no, he took over the championship lead. I was thinking 450s there for a second. Took over the championship lead from his teammate Justin Cooper, who put it back up on the podium. He was 3rd. And I think it's pretty clear to say at this point that the 3 best guys in the class are Cooper, Ferrandis, and Austin Faulkner. And they finished 1, 2, 3. Not in the order that I said them, but you get the gist. They've been pretty electrifying when they're all on. Cooper didn't look like he had his best stuff this week. It took him a long time to get around A-Mart for 3rd. But even so, I still think that like on a bad day he is the third best guy, and on a good day he can win, and then you can say the same thing for any of those other guys. It's worked out in this way now that it's gone, you know, Cooper won the opener, and then those two other guys have won everything since. So Cooper's kind of got to get the ball rolling here. He's now slipped all the way down to losing the points lead. He had a very rough Glendale, didn't really rebound, I think, in the way that he would have hoped from the weekend with this week's ride, but he's still right in the mix of the championship hunt. He's still ahead of Faulkner in the championship as well. And I think that all three of these guys have, you know, something to fight for this weekend in San Diego, because they want to get that like kind of last little notch of momentum going into the break. So, you know, by the time we come back, I think Seattle will be the next round. Whoever has won that last round, they'll carry all that momentum and training into the break, and they probably will just carry a boatload of confidence into whatever comes next. So I think that this is actually a much more crucial weekend than it appears this week, because it's finally whoever's going to take that big step forward as like, I have the momentum, I've seized the championship at this point. Because they're all so close that like at any point one of these guys could take it and run with it, but none of them have yet. So we'll see kind of where that goes and how it goes down the stretch. Good turnaround this week for Alex Martin. I was when I was on the Pulp Show a couple weeks ago, I was kind of critical of him, just because I felt like there was more in the tank with Amart this year. He just didn't look very solid in the whoops. Kind of looked like he was just sluggish in the corners. I'm not sure if it was just bike setup or whether or not he just kind of was getting his doors blown off or what have you, but he seemed to have figured it out this week in Oakland. My boss, Jason Wygant, was basically at JGR all last week talking to Amart and talking to their potential new signee, Brock Tickle. And so Amart, you know, was talking about going through and working on suspension settings, and normally he'd be down training at the Sandbox in Florida with Kenny and all those guys, but he needed to be up in North Carolina at JGR and getting those dialed in, because he said things weren't good and they needed to get better. So even Amart himself felt like he needed to make the changes, and that's kind of seems like where they've gone. He was really, really strong in third for most of that race. I thought even for a while he may hold off Cooper, and you know, Cooper got him late there, but I still think that that's a lot to be happy about with Amart, to go to North Carolina, go to JGR test track and just pound motos and get the suspension and everything dialed, and then it kind of pays off right away. Like, they already have solid results of, yeah, like look at how much better he was this weekend. So I think Amart definitely should be happy with that, and kind of stoked to see the troll train get a little bit of momentum rolling into the break here. I'm happy to see it. And then fifth place, Luke Clout, was on my fantasy team. Fantasy crushing it for me. How about that though? Aussie coming over here. He's basically the top factory Honda rider right now, I guess. Like, it's not a factory team, but it's the factory Australian Honda team. And with no Geico riders out there anymore, Clout had freaking great night of racing, and that's just really cool to see. Like, I like when these guys take the step to be like, all right, we're gonna come over, we're gonna race Supercross, we're gonna, you know, put a lot of effort into it, which not only Clout but the Penrite Honda team has done, and to get kind of rewarded with a top 5 like that is huge, I think, because I think that really bodes well for Clout's potential future in the U.S. if he so chooses to have one here. I don't really know if he wants to stay here, wants to go back to Australia or whatever. I would personally love to see him stay here. I know that he's not the youngest anymore. Like, I think he's probably in his 20, 22, 21, 22 range already, which is still very young, obviously, but it's not 16, 17 years old like some of these kids that are turning pro. And Clout was, gave Justin Brayton everything he could handle for this Australian Supercross Championship down under, and now is proven his worth here in the USA. So I like seeing that, man. That's a good story. Kind of nice to see the Penrite Honda team have something to smile about on the night. But not really much else, I feel like, in the 250 class. I wanted to briefly touch on Michael Moseman, who had a really tough crash. I think he was in 6th or 7th or so in the main event, fell, got his head ran over by McAdoo. Falk went down, a couple other guys stacked in there. And that's a bummer, because Moseman looked really, really good all day. He's, from the northern-ish California area, so there was like a home race to him, as he said. And he was really frisky in the heat race, and I love that stuff, dude. He's coming off a podium. He wants to prove himself in this class. He wants to say, like, I can win races, I can be up front, I should be on the podium, it's not a fluke. And to get passed by Forkner in the heat, if you just let him go there, you're basically just proving to yourself even that, yeah, you're not that level yet. Like, those guys are on another level, which could be true. You know, it might actually be the truth, but you're never going to get to that next level unless you prove to yourself that you can do it. So I was really stoked to see Mosiman be like, no, forget that noise. I'm not letting Forkner run away here. I'm going to pass him back. I'm going to dice with him. I'm going to make him work for this. Because even if he doesn't end up winning the heat race, at least he knows at that point, like, I can run with these guys. I can fight back. I can get in their head. Even if I'm not running their exact pace, I can do similar laps to what they're doing, show them a wheel. Like, that's huge for someone who is that age and still learning. Like, Mosiman probably is going to have a couple more years in the 250 class, I would assume. And if he keeps up that trend of, like, not giving up when he's in a situation like that, then he's going to put himself in a great position to be a championship contender in the next couple of years when all these guys are moving out of the class. Like, Ferrandis is gone this year, Sexton is gone this year. Probably Justin Cooper is going to have a couple of years. Austin Forkner sounds like he'll move up in 2022 or maybe even 2021, but probably 2022. So, like, you know, there's going to be availabilities, I think, for Mosiman and guys like him to find themselves in championship scenarios before long. So to be up there and prove your worth, that's huge in my book. So that's kind of a little bit of synopsis from the weekend in Oakland, a little bit of talking about it while playing it here in Monster Energy Supercross 3. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or whatever you want to talk about regarding the race, maybe about this track, maybe about the game further, anything along those lines, be sure to hit me up in the comment section below. I'll be happy to get back to you. And as always, I appreciate you guys stopping by, watching a video here today on SYS, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.